What does a person do when his wife cheats on him and refuses to admit the truth? And he can't kick her out or prove it. I'm asking because that's what I'm going through. Let me start from the beginning. So, I'm 33 male, live with my wife, Everly. And, well, we've been happily married for about 2 years. Before any of this happened, I believed that I had a great life and was very grateful for being lucky enough to work with my close friends and for marrying who I believed was the perfect wife. What hurt me the most was the timing of all this, because at the start of this year I fully believed that all of my problems had finally ended. To explain, right after a few months of getting married, me and my friends took a huge risk by deciding to leave our well-paying jobs and follow our passion. Together, we almost exhausted all of our savings and opened up a car customization shop. This was something that we had dreamt of doing growing up and had planned on doing it even if it took us 30 years. So, after about a year of hard work, our shop finally started generating a good amount of profit, and it started looking like we could make it. Since I had no other problems in my life, I had the best wife, great family members, and I never imagined that I would ever have to go through something like this. And it's not like I've ever been a bad husband or something, and from what we started dating to even this day, I don't think I've ever mistreated her or done anything to deserve what she did to me. As I already mentioned before, last year was a very tough time, and due to the shop, I could not give my wife enough time during the day. I did realize this and tried my best to spend as much time as I could spare on the business with her. I also constantly apologized for not giving her enough time, and she was always just okay with it. She would just say that she did not mind it in any way because I was working hard for both of us. She would also say that whatever I was doing was enough and that I did not need to worry about it, so you can see why I fully trusted her and never once suspected that she might be doing anything close to this. About 2 weeks ago, one random morning, Everly told me something that literally turned my world upside down. She looked very happy and told me that she had the best surprise for me. I got excited and asked her what it was, only to be shocked by her answer. Well, she tells me that she was pregnant and gave me a tight hug. The smile on my face immediately vanished, and I was also surprised that I could not utter a word for a moment. Everly told me that she knew I would be surprised, but she had no idea I would be shocked. She had no idea what was actually running through my mind at the moment, refusing to believe what I was even thinking. I told my wife that there's no way that she's pregnant and that this was probably a false result. She tells me that it was not and asks me why I am not happy about this. I didn't want to assume the worst immediately since I really loved my wife, so I told her that I did not want us to get excited without being sure. So later that day, she tried a few more times and the result kept coming back positive, but I still did not want to believe it. So I told her that we should talk to a doctor first, and after a little convincing, she agreed that we should make sure, and the next day we visited a doctor. I could not sleep that night before because I kept thinking about what would happen if all of this were true. But I kept telling myself that it was not. But my nightmare ended up coming true, as the doctor quickly confirmed that she was indeed pregnant. I didn't say anything at the hospital or throughout the ride because, well, I was so hurt that I didn't know what to do. By the time we reached home, I had convinced myself that I need to talk to her instead of investigating behind her back. At this point, I just wanted to hear the truth from her. She, on the other hand, kept asking me what was wrong, but I kept ignoring her until we reached home. After we came into the house, I asked her to tell me the truth about everything, and if she did, I would think about letting her stay in the house. She acted like she did not understand and asked me what was I even saying. Once more, I asked her to tell me everything. Well, what has she been hiding? And she said absolutely nothing, guys. You know, since she's been declining, I came straight to the point and I tell her that there's no way that this child was mine, and I wanted to know why she cheated and with whom. She looked absolutely shocked and asked me, how did I even dare to ask her this question? She made a great move because normally it would have made me feel bad that I was just doubting her at this point, but I wasn't going to back down that easily. So, I told her that I knew that she had cheated, but I just wanted to hear it from her own mouth. She did a great job of looking offended as she told me how much of an absolute jerk that I am. By accusing my own wife of infidelity after she had just gotten pregnant, it was honestly very difficult to stand my ground since she was still the person I love so much. But I also knew that I could not back out until she tells me the complete truth. She said that it was unbelievable that I was asking her this question after impregnating her. I told her that I was 100% positive that I was not the one who did it, and if she thought that she would get me to accept it so easily, she's absolutely dead wrong. This argument escalated so much that at one point she was in tears telling me that she had never slept with anyone else. It really hurt me to see this, and I'm not only talking about her crying, but also because she was lying to my face nonstop. At one point, she probably realized that she could not change my mind. Then she calmed down and asked me what had happened to me and why I was doing this. Well, when I kept repeating that I wanted her to tell me the truth, she gets mad and left without even saying a word. She stayed at her cousin's place nearby, and I spent another sleepless night thinking about what I was going to do next. So the next day, I saw her at home when I came back from work, and I asked her the same question again. She tells me that she had given me some time so that I would go back to normal and act like the loving husband I was before. I told her that I was not going to stop until she tells me the truth. I'll be completely honest. To this point, I've tried my hardest not to focus on the fact that my wife, whom I've loved more than anything, had not only cheated but had even gotten pregnant with somebody else. I knew that if I allowed myself to focus on these things, then I would completely break down and not be able to think clearly. But I still had tears in my eyes when I told Everly that I was never going to treat her like my wife ever again. Well, this made her mad, and then she screamed at me saying that I was going to do with the children, and I told her that I didn't care since they aren't mine. She starts crying. So I told her that I was not going to ask her again and that she has a week to come clean. I gave her an ultimatum that she would either admit to cheating or I was going to throw her out of the house myself. We did not speak for a few days, and she did things that she would normally do because she probably thought that there was no way that I was being serious. Well, about 2 days ago, at the end of the week, she kept saying that the kid was mine, so I asked her to go get out. She packed a bag and tells me that I was going to regret this, so she stayed with her cousin for the night. Right then, the family was starting because almost immediately all of my and her family members started calling and texting me asking if I had lost my marbles. Well, my cousin brother, parents, her parents, and a lot more people kept calling and saying what I had just done. So obviously, well, it seems like she's told everybody. And it was apparent to me how guilty this made me look, but I did not care. I told all of them that I was not going to let her in until she tells me the truth. But family's funny thing because you can't really say no to them, even when they know that you're right, and of course, in my case, mostly everybody believed that I lost my marbles. The next day, everybody showed up, and no matter how much I tried to convince them, nobody believed me. I also understand why, since I didn't really give them any proof, and given the situation I'm in, I think even I would have believed the pregnant woman. I tried my best to explain, but in the end, I was forced to take my wife back. Most of the family members, including my parents, declared that as long as I didn't accept her, they would also not see me as family. Since no matter how much I tried, they refused to believe me, and all I had in the name of evidence was please believe me, I had to give up. But that does not mean that I've accepted my wife. I've not spoken to my wife since and have stayed in separate rooms. The thing is, even though I don't want to accept it, my marriage is basically over. No matter how much I actually love my wife, I can never forget her for what she has done. And honestly, every day I spend with her breaks my heart even more and makes me feel like I'm in hell. I'm out of ideas on what I can do in this situation, since my family is never going to accept my decision. That's why I thought maybe here I could find a suggestion that would help me. So please give me some ideas on how I can convince my family members and absolutely expose my cheating wife. What's up, everybody? Mr. Reddito here. Oh boy, today's story is wild. You know it's crazy when the family isn't believing you? Because, well, things probably escalate at some point. Anyways, there's a few updates we need to check out, and I'll let you know right now, things do start to get a little heated. If you guys are new to the channel and you do want to see more daily videos, consider subscribing. It does help out the channel, and that way you never miss a juicy story. Update number 1. First of all, thanks to everybody who took the time to give me some advice or suggestions on how I should proceed further. I did have a few plans of my own, but your comments really helped me a lot. It's been about 2 weeks since I wrote my post, and let me tell you everything that happened. As I mentioned earlier, even though I was forced to keep her in my home, I completely stopped speaking with her, and I started going to work early and staying late. After a few days of this, one morning my wife suddenly broke down in front of me and asked me why I was putting her through this. She said if I did not want a child right now, she would drop it, but she did not understand why I was doing it. Once again, it really hurt to see my wife this way, but it hurt way more knowing that all of this was an act, and that she wanted to continue living with me while she could continue sleeping with other people. It made me mad to see that the person I loved so much was doing this in front of my face. So, in a fit of rage, I told her that I did not care if she dropped it or kept it because, well, after I had made her tell everyone the truth, I would throw her out of the house, and after that, she stopped trying to reason with me and did not try to speak to me even once. For those wondering how I can be so sure, I don't really want to tell you guys what I know, but I will assure you that there's no doubt in my mind that this child is not mine. If I was working on a hunch, there was no way I could act like this to my wife and still stand my ground while taking all of this family pressure. I've tried my hardest to convince my family, but they just don't listen. Although I understand what this situation looks like, I also think that they should at least consider why I would do all of this if the child were mine. I tried making my parents understand, but they refused to even listen to me. As did most of the family members, and fortunately I still have some close friends and a few family members who trust my word. I'll admit that I kinda made a mistake by immediately confronting my wife, because now I can't find any proof of her cheating. I've looked everywhere, and now she obviously is not going to leave anything that's going to help me prove it. I discussed it with my friends, and it looked like the only option left for me was taking a paternity test to prove myself right. So, for the past week, I've been working with family members who trust me to try and convince other family members to agree to this. And tomorrow, we have a family meeting where the decision will be taken. I'll be sure to update you guys on what exactly happens. Update number 2. The next day, I was a bit nervous driving to my parents' house since I don't know what they would decide. The meeting started, and obviously my wife spoke first, telling everybody how badly I had treated her and that she had only offered to give up the child. Now obviously this enraged a lot of family members and made it close to impossible to convince them that I was right. But this did not scare me since the odds were never in my favor anywho. Then I got to speak, and I told everybody that I'm fully certain with every single human fiber of my being that that child is not mine. Her father gets mad and charges at me, looking like he was going to punch me. I told him that he could punch me if he wants, but it's not going to change my little mind. As knowing that my wife cheated on me already hurts enough, so badly that I would barely even feel the pain. I think this time I sounded genuine, and even though he did not believe me, he backed off and let me speak. I tried my best to convince everybody and pleaded with them to agree to a paternity test, just to make my chances a bit better. I told them that this test would clear all the doubts and I would apologize for the rest of my life if I was indeed wrong. So in the end, most of the family members ended up agreeing and saying that taking a paternity test was not going to do any harm. When the decision was made, I saw a slight little change in my wife's face as it went from sad to scared, but she quickly regained her composure and protested to it, saying that she did not need to prove a damn thing. She said she had always only wanted the best for me and always loved me and never once doubted me. So she expected me to show her the same amount of trust and respect, and the fact that I was asking her to do this was absolutely absurd. She said that she had never even thought about cheating and had been the best wife she could have been. And this is what she was getting back, and I told her if she did not want to take the test, she was proving me right and was welcome to move out of the house now. After a few family members and her own father told her that it was the best step, she was forced to agree to my demands. But she made a demand of her own that she would not do the test in our regular hospital, as she did not want anyone to know that I was putting her through this. I agreed, and she suggested a hospital a little further away from our normal one. So, a few weeks later, she got tested, and we are currently waiting for the results also. Even though she was protesting my going to the hospital with her, I still went just to make sure that she did not fool me again. I hope that by that time I update you guys. I'm able to prove myself. Update number 3. I can't believe I fell for it again. I knew that I was being a little too hopeful that everything would work out easily, but I thought that at least the paternity test would go my way, but sadly it did not. Throughout the entire week before the results came in, I noticed that my wife was not a bit nervous, which made me think something was wrong. But I still chose to wait and see what the results said. To my absolute surprise, the results showed that I was the father of the child. I was devastated. As soon as I found out about the results, I quickly realized that she had bamboozled me, and I was also scared because this meant that I had to do it the hard way. So we drive home, and a few members of our family, including my parents and her dad, were waiting for us there. At this point, my wife could barely contain her smugness, and when I asked what she did, she just said that I was now a sore loser because she had proved herself, and I replied that this was not a game I could win because no matter what, I had already lost my wife, and she said that she was right there with me. I have to admit that it was impressive to see her restraint since she still did not gloat or show any emotions that would make it feel like she had tricked me again. Well, when everybody found out about the results, they all looked at me like I was not right in the head. Her father was so happy but also furious at me for making her go through this. I had to spend almost an hour apologizing for my actions, and I could visibly see the disappointment my family members had for me. Then she asked if there was something else she needed to do to prove it to me, and I said she already had. I told her, in front of the family members, that I was sorry for doubting her and that in a few days I would apologize once again in front of everybody, and explain why I doubted and do whatever else she asked me to do. She smiles and says, that apology was good and my realizations were enough for her, and from now on she never wanted me to accuse her like that ever again. I promised her that I would never do something like that as long as I was her husband. I don't think I quite managed to fool her so easily, but I really don't care. I only did all this so that I could buy some time to do what I should have probably done about a month ago. I need to get some medical records first. And I also need to do some digging for another thing. My next update's probably going to be the last one, and hopefully this time I'll manage to prove once and for all that my wife is a lying cheater and does not deserve a place in my home. Update number 4. Hey everyone, sorry about the last update, and I'm very pleased to say that my plan did work. And this time there were no surprises, at least for me. So after my previous update, I did a bit of digging and found out that the doctor we went to was actually a good friend of my wife, as they had gone through college together. So obviously, this did not prove anything more than that she knew him already, but a connection was mostly everything I needed, and just to be sure, I contacted one of her college friends and asked her when all of them had last met, and she said that they had done a small meetup just about a month ago. This proved that she knew that he was the doctor there. And, this was more than enough proof for me. Until the day of the apology, I kept acting like I had accepted her and did not doubt that she had done something. I think at some point she believed that I've given up trying to prove it. The day of the apology came, and I was very, very excited. The whole family was there, and so her parents and I started by talking about how I regretted my choices in the past. Everyone looked very happy about that. I had finally changed, but their faces turned as I said that marrying her was a mistake and confronting her without proof was one too. I told everyone that this was the last thing I wanted to do, but since nothing worked, I had to do it. I started by explaining how my wife had tricked all of us with a fake paternity test, and obviously this did not prove much, since most people refused to accept the simple connection. Well, then I told them that there was a genuine reason that made me sure that she had cheated, and it was because I got a vasectomy more than a year before we got married. Well, this sent waves of shock throughout my room, and Everly looked like she had just seen a ghost. I explained that a few years ago I decided that I did not want children and got a vasectomy without telling anybody. Unfortunately, I also did not tell Everly because she told me that she might want children in the future. I used to think that I would tell her when she, would tell me that she wanted to try for a kid, and I was even ready to reverse it if I felt the same. I looked at my wife and told her that this meant that there was no chance that I could ever have a kid and that she's been lying to me and everyone nonstop. Everly tried her best to come up with something, but obviously had to give up some, since my proof managed to convince a lot of the family members even. Well, when she noticed that crying wasn't going to work either, she told everyone the truth. Since she did not have to do any work at home and I was mostly at work, she started feeling a little lonely and started talking to a few guys on social media. She said she tried her best to control herself, but ended up giving up a few months ago and having an affair with the guy she's been speaking with. When she realized that she was pregnant, she immediately cut him off and realized her mistake. But she did not want to drop the child, so she tried to pin it to me. With tears in her eyes, she said that it was actually a mistake. She regretted that she did this every single day and was never going to do anything like that ever again. Honestly, I felt bad for her parents and my parents since I had already accepted this reality, but they had just found out. And after that, she begged me to forgive her and give her a chance, and I refused. I kicked her out of my house along with all her stuff right that day, and she moved back in with her parents who were not speaking with her. It's been about a month since then, and I'm happy to say that I'm doing quite well. Well, I have done a lot of thinking and have decided to divorce her for obvious reasons, and I'll try my best to move on and live as happily as possible. But honestly, if you were in my situation, what would you have done?